be the solution, not the problem. Don't be the problem where you're giving your kids anxious moments. Well, or say, well, no, you do this sport or do that sport, do this sport, do that sport. I'm a baseball player. I grew up, I played high school ball. I love baseball. And I wanted him to play baseball. So at the beginning, I said, oh, let's get you into baseball. That's the first sport. I'll let you play all the other sports, but play baseball. And I kind of pushed him a little bit that way. But then he realized that I want to try other sports. Okay, let's do that. And then he walked away from baseball. And he was a phenomenal baseball player. I'm like, son, you were at 2 years old, you were hitting curveballs and sliders. What went wrong? Why did you choose basketball? He's like, basketball's just more fun, Dad. And I'm like, okay. I had to be okay with that. I had to be okay with that. And to be present with your kids. A lot of parents, they're not present with their kids, even at games or practices. What are they doing? They're yelling at the coaches. They're yelling at the referees. They're yelling at their kid. They're not present in the moment just to watch their kid, to be a dad and to be a mom. Learn the balance of those things. When that kid steps onto the court, let them step onto that court. Don't hold them back. Don't extend the court to the sidelines.
Welcome to the Faithful Fathering Podcast. This is Rick Wirtz, founder and president of Faithful Fathering, where we encourage and equip dads to be faithful fathers. That's a dad that prioritizes physical presence, is engaged emotionally, and leads spiritually by example. This podcast series is titled Sports is Life, but I love sports. If I could hit it, throw it, catch it, then I was out there playing it. And my kids were the same way. We just got involved and enjoyed everything that we could get into: baseball, basketball, football, tennis. I loved it because when you were disciplining yourself to learn a given skill, to pick that, take it to a new level of competing in that sport, then that was a discipline that served you well in life. And of course, you always had the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat after each game that you had to process. And again, that's part of life too, isn't it? You have to take your hits and you have to get up and keep going, and you have to take your successes and build on them. And so sports is life, but it needs to be managed well. And in the studio with us today is Tico Montoya. Tico is the associate pastor at Monument Baptist Church, and I know you're a sports nut as well. It's a blessing to have you with us, and I'd like to just welcome you to the studio.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's good to be here.
Blessing to have you. And tell us a little bit about your story, Tico, how your family growing up, and what the influences were in your life on the sports front.
So I grew up in a Christian home, and my dad and mom would always make sure we were in church and all those things, because 6 kids. I mean, you imagine having 6 kids. You've got to try every vacation Bible school there was. We were booked for the summer because they want to make sure we were in something, because otherwise we might get into trouble at home. And both my parents worked full time, and so we would be at home, and sometimes we get into some trouble. But nonetheless, that's where kind of sports came in. My parents my mom said, you can't play football or basketball or soccer, but you can play baseball. So my brother and I, we learned to play baseball, my sisters, and we learned to play baseball and softball, and we got into sports, but we always loved sports. We were always outside. We're in that generation where we were always outside playing sports, either basketball hoop on the side of the house or baseball game on the side of the house, football, whatever it would be, we had a good time playing sports. And so sports became a way for us to outlet energy. And I think my parents encouraged that. And so if we got a little bit too rowdy in the house, my parents would say, I think there's a baseball game calling you outside, So we would go outside and play. We broke many of windows. I'd say that. We broke many of windows with balls hitting windows and stuff like that. My parents were gracious, and they understood that a broken window is better than what else could happen inside the house. Fight, bloody nose, who knows what. So they were okay with that. It was okay with that. So
that's been a pretty good deal with 6 kids. You always had 3-on-3.
That's right. We always had, and the neighborhood kids really didn't test us too much, because we were really competitive and really aggressive at sports. And so the kids knew if they came over, you're going to lose, So it was a good problem to have, I guess, to have that.
Was your dad engaged at all? Was he a sports guy?
My dad grew up playing baseball. I mean, we have pictures around my parents' house of my dad when he played Little League, and he played in school, but just these old uniforms with the gloves that look like a hand, those kind of things. But he played baseball. He grew up playing those sports. And so we got to see that. And my dad would encourage us to play sports, and he would come out and play catch with us. He would do those things and ask us about our games, go to our games. My dad it was good. Some parents are not involved in their kids' lives in sports. They would go. My dad wasn't one where he's yelling from the stands coaching, after the game. Say, hey, good game, didn't get it this time, or great game, you did wonderful, whatever. Let's go get, a Coke afterwards or something like that. So it was good.
So was the ice cream or the Coke dependent upon your performance?
No, it was always just, hey, let's go get an ice cream or Coke. I guess it just depended on how much money he had in his pocket at the time. Because if he had a little bit more, he just did a job. He did construction on the side. He was a school teacher, but he did construction on the side. So if he just got paid from a construction job, we're getting ice cream.
There you go.
But if it wasn't, it was a soda. We're like, okay, yeah, we'll go get a soda. So it just depended on the amount of money he had in his pocket.
And tell me again the age range of the kids. And you had 6 of you. Were you in the middle?
I was right. And then there were 6. There was 3 boys, 3 girls, and so I was number 4 in line. So of the boys, though, I was number 2. So I was right in the middle of the boys. And so me and my other sister, we were the middle children. So we're number 3 and number 4. And we lived up to that middle child syndrome. As you can imagine, we were always in trouble. At least I was. She'll say she wasn't. She was an angel, but she wasn't.
The one that got you in trouble.
She was. She was an instigator just as much as I was. And she still is to this day. But yes, I was. We were right in the middle of it. And 3 older siblings and 2 younger siblings.
So sports was very central to your whole family.
Is.
Everybody got involved.
Absolutely.
Was your mom an athlete as well?
My mom, she was in the band. I think she did say, I think she played basketball at one point, but she was in the band and she played the drums. But she didn't let us know that because she didn't want us playing the drums, as you can imagine. Home, the drums, it's probably a little bit too loud with a bunch of kids. So moms
are a lot smarter than we give them credit
That's
for.
right. Absolutely. They're wise. They're wise. They're wise. Very wise.
Well, and I would never short sheet, that marching band. There's my daughter was in marching band, and there are football teams that wish they were half as disciplined as that marching band.
That's right.
was.
That's right. That's right.
That was quite a deal. Now, I assume also there was an emphasis on church as well. How did you work that? How did he work church around sports, or sports around church?
Of course, back when I was growing up, in the 80s, 90s, church was central to a lot of things. So you didn't have competitions on Sundays. Wednesdays you might have games or practices, but my mom and dad said, no, you're going to church. You're not going to go to practice or a game. If it's on Wednesday, then if it's after church is over, fine. Your game is that. If you have a late game, a 9 o'clock game, okay, that's fine. You can go to that game. But if it's during church hours, no, you're not going to go. And so they instilled in us early to put our faith above whatever sport outlet, whatever it is, because they didn't want that to become the desire of our heart would be that. The desire of our heart should be focused on God. And they always did that for us. But it wasn't just for me and my older brother and my older siblings and not so much for the younger. It was all the way through from the oldest to the youngest. They kept it the same. And just so you couldn't say, well, so you let my older sister do this, and how come you won't let me do that? No, my parents no, it's going to be the same for all of them. So they were consistent in making sure that faith was put up. And so every Sunday morning, every Sunday night, every Wednesday, we were at church. So every youth activity, if there was youth activity on a Thursday night, we had a ball game. Guess what? Got priority, the youth activity at the church, because they valued that above. They wanted us to show us that you're young. You're not going to be a professional athlete, because the professional athlete is very small, but they understood that what's more important, you as an individual.
So you had the right kind of drug problem.
That's right.
You got drugged to church on Sunday.
That's right. Got drugged to church on Sunday and Wednesdays and any other time.
Well, go ahead and fast forward a little bit to your family today. Tell us about your bride, how long you've been married, and your kids.
I've been married to my wife for 23 years, and we've got, thank you. And I've got my oldest son is in college. His name is Elijah. He's about to graduate, knock on wood, because he's supposed to graduate in May with exercise physiology, which has to do kind of with sports. And he loves our kids are sports driven. I have a daughter who's 19. And she is a freshman at a junior college here in the Houston area. And she's early childhood development. She wants to be a school teacher. And then this is what we call them the 3 amigos, because they're the last 3 at home and they're close in age. I've got a 16, 15, and 13-year-old. Okay. And they all share one big bedroom. It's a big giant room upstairs, and they share one big room. And they live life up there. And sometimes you don't know what's growing up there. And so we have to go up there and tell them. But So all of our kids we have 5 kids in total, 4 boys and 1 girl. And the girl runs the roost. She kind of lets the boys know she's kind of second mama. So, but they all love sports. And not that I forced it. We forced it on them. It's just part of our life because growing up, we would take them to games and they would ask, can we go to this game? Can we do this? And they see their friends playing. Sure, we encourage them to go and play. And they gravitated towards it. And it's just been something natural for them to do.
Baseball as well or otherwise?
They've played. One of the things we want to do is expose them to all the sports. A lot of parents will do a thing where they could just specialize. Okay, so it's just gymnastics or just cheerleading or just soccer or just basketball or football or baseball. We try to give them the whole variety of sports. Like, look, you got to find something that you're going to like, because you may not like basketball. You may like soccer instead. So they all played soccer, flag football, baseball, and basketball. Those are pretty much the ones that were available when I was in seminary or when we were younger, raising kids. That's what was readily available. And so they played all of those sports, and then they naturally gravitated. We just watched them gravitate towards the sport or whatever they like to do. And most of them chose basketball. I have one boy who likes basketball. He likes to run now. So he's choosing to start running. And he likes doing 5Ks. I'm like, why would you want to torture yourself? But nonetheless.
I don't understand it either.
I don't either. But he invited me to do a 5K with him. And I'm like, I don't run, but I know it means something to you. So I'm going to be there. I'll do it.
You get an added ad from me for doing that.
That's right.
That's quite a deal.
I'm going to walk it, but I will be there with him participating in it.
So you've kept it obviously central to your family now as
Correct.
It was to you growing up.
Correct.
How do you feel you've emulated your dad? Is it pretty much you obviously prioritize the same things and
Sure.
try to listen?
Yes. It was interesting when our oldest son, who's really a tremendous basketball player, had opportunities. He could play basketball in college and is very gifted athlete, very gifted, quick, can shoot like a Steph Curry type shot. And he's a gazelle when he runs. He's slender. He's literally a basketball prototype, looking like he looks like a basketball player, and he plays like a basketball player. And when he was playing AAU basketball, it was funny. He was playing for a local big AAU team here in Houston, and he had a coach. And I love Coach Shelton because the reason why is because when I told Coach, I said, look, we don't play on Sundays during church hours. Now, if it's an afternoon, we'll drive him to the tournament, to the games, but he has Sunday night church. And the coach understood that. And he said, okay, that's fine. If we just get him for that, I'd love to have him. And so Sunday morning, his team is playing, in Houston somewhere, playing a big tournament. But on Sunday, he played Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but not on Sunday. But then if they made it to the championship game, which are further in the tournament, which they actually did a lot of times, he was there in the afternoon showing up and playing, and the coach understood, and he set that precedent. He let parents know. He let the team know. It's like, hey, they're putting religion first. They're putting God. They are part of that process for at least they believe in that. So we set that up for our kids, and we're part of we homeschool our kids. And we're part of a homeschool basketball program. All of our games and practices they do not do on Sundays and Wednesdays because the majority of people go to church on those days. And that's one of the reasons we chose this organization. And our kids go to church on Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesdays because we want them to grow spiritually. Sure. And they know that basketball is secondary, or whatever hobby they choose or craft that they choose is going to be secondary to what we believe is more important.
Okay, so you let your kids test the waters in different sports, and you also prioritize faith and
correct. And just like my dad did. I mean, that's what he did. He wanted us to do that, except we could only do baseball. So, but he prioritized that for us in our lives.
But you did limit it to 5 kids instead of 6. So
right, that's right. We stopped. We said no. We weren't. My younger sister has 9 kids. She didn't stop. She just kept having. But we stopped at 5 and said that's enough.
One basketball team is enough.
That's right. One basketball team is enough.
Now, I can imagine your calendar is nuts.
Yes.
How do you manage that as with your bride?
So, for those of y'all don't know out there, there's this thing called the Cozy app on your phone, it's a calendar app, a calendar app for your phone. It's called COZI. I recommend it. So my wife will go and she put this. We all have it on our phones, and she puts in all of our games, all of our practices. If we're going out of town, if we have church, if there's an event coming up, whatever it is, she puts it on. So if our kids ask, what time is my game? Did you check the calendar? Did you check the family calendar? So we communicate that
Fantastic.
way.
Wow.
So that way the kids know and they have it. So there's no excuse for them not to have it because they have it on their app, on their phone to take a look. But we also verbally communicate every day, to say, hey, we got practice, or did you, little things, the small things. Did you get uniform washed? Did you get your practice jersey washed? Or do you have clean clothes for the day? Those kind for practice and all these kind of your practice clothes and stuff. So we communicate those things. If you need something to eat, make sure you hydrate, or make sure you eat proper nutrition before your games and tournaments coming up. So we communicate that way verbally. But the main part is, and a lot of it is in that app that just has opened up a lot of communication for us, and so it just helps us out. So parents, a sports athlete, get something like that. That helps. It helps.
That's fabulous. So you set the main boundary is that you will have the faith on Sunday and Wednesday.
Correct.
Are there any other boundaries that you've had to set up to, obviously for getting schoolwork done and all the other things? How have those boundaries been emphasized as much as sports?
Right. Education is very important. Of course, since we homeschool, they get a lot of their work done. But if they fall behind and they don't, let's say they don't accomplish their tests or their tasks, they don't do well enough on a test, maybe they need some tutoring, that takes a priority over practicing games. So you will miss a practice. You will miss a game if you are failing a class or you're just struggling. If we see a struggle, it's not just, because everybody has a struggle, with certain classes. Maybe they're making a B, they want an A, they'll be hard on themselves, whatever. But that's not a struggle. I don't consider it. A struggle is you got zeros. Why do you have zeros? Oh, you're not doing your schoolwork. So, look, in your syllabus here, it says you need to do, X, this, Y, and Z. And you're not fulfilling that obligation. So let's sit down and let's do your schoolwork and let's get this down. And so every night, one of the things that I do with my boys is, since they're still in school, I sit them down in my living room at 11 o'clock at night, every night of the week. Sit down, 11. Okay, give me the lowdown. I ask them certain questions, but one of the things is schoolwork. How are you doing your schoolwork? Are you ahead? Are you behind? If you're behind a little bit, how are you on your progress? Are you progressing to get ahead? Because they started one of the programs, they started late in the year. It's not their fault. And so we decided to add something to them, to their education. So they started halfway through. They're trying to get, what's your plan? And so we'd go over that plan. How are you going to attack that plan? Are you staying on task? Yes, I am. Are you not? If you're not, then you need to step it up a little bit. So it's just communication and making sure their education is forth, more so than basketball and any other sports that they do. Because basketball, if you let it, any sport, parents can take over your family.
Sure.
And it will become the driving force and the desire of that family. And that's not a healthy way to go.
Especially in this Houston area.
That's
it's
right.
so competitive.
And it's year round. Any sport you want to find is year round.
You can spend as much as you want.
That's
you can
right.
spend as much time as you
That's
want.
Right.
So
That's
dollars and time.
That's right.
Both,
Absolutely.
But it sounds like you really have really a discipline in the way not only you manage your calendars, but the way you communicate with the boys yourself and your bride, I'm sure.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about how is it the discipline of the sports has rolled into the way they manage their studies because that sports are important to them, or is it the other way around? Has it been very complementary?
It's kind of complementary. It's kind of a competitive balance is what I call it. And I call a word chaotic. It's chaos and order at the same time. So chaotic in life because you have basketball, you have school, you have all these things. But really, some of the things that drive them are saying, hey, I want to play in this basketball tournament. But again, basketball is not year round for us. It's it's a majority of the year. It's September to March. But there are downtimes. But they do know that school is always going to be there. So if they want to finish, and they have an opportunity. They can finish in June. They can finish in May. We give them that opportunity. So their school is based on them to say, okay, we got to pick it up a notch if I want to finish in those things. And to see them work through those things where they can see how they can accomplish goals. Basketball has helped them. We are a basketball family. Basketball has taught them to set goals. Our program has taught them to set goals and to be, like in our program, we teach, one of the things is we coach people first and we coach basketball second. And so that's at least that's a mentality. And that comes to home. We're teaching students first and then athletes second. And so you're a student. And then before that, we're teaching Christians first, then students second. So it just keeps going up and up, into that. And we're teaching them how to be sons and daughters, and or daughters or sons and daughter. I only have one daughter, but we're teaching them how to be successful Christians first, So that's the ultimate task, and it can get lost in all of that if you just get caught up with just education or just sports. And so trying to find that balance, y'all, it's not easy. It's not easy because you're going to be pulled different ways. My wife works full time from home. And our time usually is in the evening, but in the morning I go and I talk with her and I visit with her. And while she's working, but we talk and we talk about the day, we talk about what's coming up. And she starts at work at 6 o'clock in the morning, So, but I get a couple hours with her before I have to go off to work. But I want to set the tone of what is going on, with the day. So the kids can know too as well.
And you mentioned your oldest son was quite a basketball. Did he have the opportunity to continue into the collegiate level, or
if he wanted to, he could have, but he chose not to because he saw. So his girlfriend, she is on the drill team, the dance team of the school, the college that he goes to, Mary Hardin Baylor. She's on that team. He's kind of watched her from afar, kind of just seen how worth it, getting up at 4 or 5 in the morning, going to drill practice, doing all these things, game planning. She's one of the managers, so she has to plan out all the dance routines and all those kind of things. And the effort that she has, and she barely has enough time. She can't even breathe, much less breakfast. Forget about it. Lunch, forget about it, because there's school in between all of that, and there's practices, and then she has games, football games, baseball games, basketball games. And then she has appearances. If it's a school or in the community, she has to do all these things. And he just stopped and said, "No, I don't think I want that." As an athlete, I wanted to concentrate on my school. I want to get done because it's a Division III school. He's like, am I going to play after this? Sure, but I want to have fun. I want to enjoy my college experience. So he does intramurals. So he's like, plus I want to do all the sports. I want to do baseball. I want to do softball. I want to do soccer. I want to do flag football. I want to do basketball. I want to do volleyball, indoor and outdoor volleyball, Dad. And I want to do pickleball. I'm like, okay, well then it sounds like if you want to choose that.
You got the pickleball.
But you want to choose that, then you can't be an athlete, but you got to, but yeah, he loves pickleball too. He got us into pickleball. So it's great. So
sounds like he's still keeping himself pretty busy.
He's very active.
You're absolutely right, though. I mean, any collegiate sport, Division III, 2, or Division I, it's a full-time job.
It is.
It's a full-time job. So that's fascinating. But it sounds like the same discipline that he had and the same prioritization that you established allowed him to go into that confident in a decision. So,
right.
Is there anything else that you would say that you've seen in your 2 older children, how the discipline associated that you've used in sports across the years has enabled them to make those right decisions?
Yeah, I think what
right
the sports,
for themselves.
Right for I think what has taught them is how to be valuable or how to see themselves as valuable, because sports, of course, if you're on a team and the team puts you down, or you don't find self-worth, but where are you valuable on the team, and learning that as a team and how to push through some of those things, to learn your value. Because once you learn how to be valuable, or at least learn how that you are valuable on a team, then it opens up the door to say, hey, I can do this. I can do this, and I can help my team out. And one of the things that I was telling Robert about is a coach on our basketball program. His name is Joan Players. If y'all want to look this guy up, he's an amazing testimony. Blind in one eye, and played Division I basketball. Played overseas, and led the team, Sam Houston Bearcats, in assist and all these. It's just a phenomenal player. And one of the things that he says is, you can. I tell my kids, I want to tell my kids this. I tell the kids and tell them, my boys and my daughter, and especially my older boy and my older daughter, you can be a thermostat or you can be a thermometer. A thermostat is going to be something that can control themselves and control the atmosphere, control the temperature of a game or life in itself. Like if you're at work, if you're at school, you're going to be able to, or you can be a thermometer, which just goes up based on the surrounding environment around you. You have no control over it. It controls you. So you may have your highs, but you're going to have your lows. And when you're on your lows, you're going to blow up. You're going to be stressed. You're going to have anxious thoughts and anxious moments. And so really it's teaching them how to be a thermostat to control that. And how does God fit into that? Where is your discipline to know who God is and to be still and know that he is God? So they've learned that over the years, and they've learned that in their early journey in sports, and it taught them that, and they've learned that, and they're carrying it on still. And my daughter's very regimented. She's got a strict schedule. She knows exactly what she wants and what she wants to do and how she wants to do it. And if you go outside of that, she becomes a thermometer, not a thermostat. And so we have to tell her, be a thermostat, to help gauge those things. But it does help. They have learned from sports to give them discipline and structure in certain ways, in a competitive way, and especially in adversity. Because in sports, you're going to face adversity. And we've seen it. My daughter and my son, they learn that. And now they're at school, they're in college. They're facing the pressures of timeline of, okay, this is not mom and dad homeschool anymore. This is like a professor, and I got to check the syllabus, and they're overloading me. I've got 3 papers due in 3 weeks. And there's no way they're 8-page, 10-page papers, And like, how am I supposed to do this? That's adversity. How are you going to manage your time? So now they have to go back to what they know and rebalance their time and do those things. So they learn on the court adversity, or on the softball field adversity, to where they are now. They can make those adjustments. So it's kind of a good life lesson.
Sure. So what advice would you have for a dad that is debating on, do I really want to give my kids, do I want them involved in 2 or 3 different sports, or should I just focus in, or do I even want to get involved in sports? What's your advice for that?
Get involved in sports. And here's what I tell them. Be the solution, not the problem. That's another thing that I learned over the years is be the solution, not the problem. So don't be the problem where you're giving your kids anxious moments. Or say, well, no, you do this sport or do that sport, do this sport, do that sport. But find out what your kids like. Listen to them. If you listen to your kids and just watch what they naturally enjoy, maybe you think they like baseball because you like baseball. My oldest son, I'm a baseball player. I grew up, I played high school ball. I love baseball. And I wanted him to play baseball. So at the beginning, I said, oh, let's get you into baseball. That's the first sport. I'll let you play all the other sports, but play baseball. And I kind of pushed him a little bit that way. But then he realized that I want to try other sports. Okay, let's do that. And then he walked away from baseball. And he was a phenomenal baseball player. I'm like, son, you were at 2 years old, you were hitting curveballs and sliders. What went wrong? Why did you choose basketball? He's like, basketball's just more fun, Dad. And I'm like, okay. I had to be okay with that. I had to be okay with that. And to be present with your kids. A lot of parents, they're not present with their kids, even at games or practices. What are they doing? They're yelling at the coaches. They're yelling at the referees. They're yelling at their kid. They're not present in the moment just to watch their kid, to be a dad and to be a mom. Learn the balance of those things. When that kid steps onto the court, let them step onto that court. Don't hold them back. Don't extend the court to the sidelines, because a lot of times you want to extend the court to the sidelines and they'll listen to you and the coaches. And one of the biggest turnoff is especially if your kid wants to play college ball, if your kid keeps looking in the stands, listening to you, that coach is like, I don't want that kid, because they're not going to be focused. They're not coachable. They're going to listen to mom and dad and what they say more than likely. So just to be able to take a step back from all those things, and just don't be, like I said, don't be part of the problem, be part of the solution, and helping your kids grow and encourage them, but then also invest in them. So if they like, let's say, soccer, and you see them out there, and I know sometimes you want to clean the garage, or you're working on something in the yard or whatever, stop. Go and kick the ball with them. Tell them, say, okay, what do you know? Show me your best move. Kids like, look at me. From a young age, think about this. From a young age, kids want to show off for their parents.
Sure.
I mean, you know that, right? Your kid's like, hey, Dad, look what I can do. And they do a cartwheel, right? And you're like, oh, wow. And you clap. It was the most horrible cartwheel probably in your eyes, but you're like, that was amazing. They're like, the approval of mom and dad, or dad especially, especially dads. When you see your kid out there, hey, show me something, teach me something. I want to be taught something. Teach me what you know. And they'll be, okay, look at this, Dad. And it may be behind the back dribble or something. It's like, it's not that good. But then you try, you're like, actually, I'm not that good at it either. So it's like, teach me, show them, spend time with them in their skill doing that. But not only that, what about doing things outside their skills? Like, what do you do? Like, what else do they enjoy beside that sport? A lot of times parents will get so focused on football, let's say, and they only want to go to football games, professional football games, college football games with their kid. They want to go training with their kids. They want to go to, everything football. Hey, there's a movie. It's about football. Hey, we need to go get some new spikes for your football. You need to get a new uniform or a new helmet or whatever, or gloves or whatever for football. But what else do they enjoy? Maybe they enjoy playing cards or doing origami. I don't know, playing the piano. Spend time with them outside of their sport that they are so focused on to show them to be well balanced. And you're a well-rounded parent that they're not living for your approval through a sport.
Right.
You're just trying to show them that you approve of them because of who they are,
Sure.
not because of who they think they are or who you think they are. It's because of who they are. So parents, spend time with your kids outside of that sport or the choice of what extracurricular activity that they do.
Fantastic. Well, there you have it, dads. Sports is life, but it
That's
needs to be managed well. And what a great number of tips we got here from Tico. I hope you take them away, and that is to expose your kids to a variety of sports and develop a life outside, but all the time watching them to help them grow in their own self-confidence, their own abilities, their discipline in the practice. But most of all, just be present and be engaged, and always work with your children's mother, with your bride, to focus on the right stuff. That's the dad you're called to be, and that's the dad the next generation needs. God bless, Godspeed.
God bless.